Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we got ourselves our last mailbag of the season. Justin Pennick, how are you?
Hey, Bobby Skinner. I'm good. I love the mailbag pods. I love the in-season mailbag pods. I think it's our best work because you have the chance to watch the film. There's a chance to kind of debrief and take a breath from the game on Sunday. And, hey, these Tuesdays are like our go days in the middle of the week. But I'm still going to miss these episodes and these conversations with you. How are you?
I'm good. Like we said, we always say that although we want to win, the mailbag pods are at their best when the Giants lose. So the mailbag pods have been great this year, unfortunately. So we'll get into all of it. And like this is the last time I can just avoid all draft questions for the mailbag. So that's pretty exciting. I think Wednesday I'm going to spend some time working on some some draft breakdowns.
Ooh.
Or get try and crank one out, get a player done, top player, and we'll go. So excited to finish this season off with all of you. Speaking of people we're going to finish it off with, Justin.
Oh, speaking of people we're going to finish off.
That's not what I said. Finish it off with.
Oh,
we got. Hold on. Let me refresh it so we can let the people know. We got Jake Trueblood. Did you see the last guy that had a longer kick return or punt return than Gunnar Olszewski's name was like Al Blood or something? We got Diamond Ross. He's a diamond in the rough, not the diamond in the Ross. And Jake, by the way, is true blood. He's not a true Crip. He's wearing blue in his picture. Kind of goes against that.
Yep.
Brandon Fitzgibbons. How about that, Brandon? We appreciate you. Let's go. Justin, who are these people?
I'm wearing red in my picture.
Because you a true blood.
Diamond Ross, any relation to Aaron?
Yes. It's actually his younger brother.
Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. $2 a month plus some of the tiers. You get to hang out with us.
You remember the meme? It's like, why is our sister's named, Diamond? It's like, well, because your mother loves diamonds. Anyways, can you get me a beer NFL Sunday ticket?
Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. $2 a month.
You didn't get it. You didn't get the joke.
Nope,
You didn't get the joke. He's like saying like, well, that's why your sister's named that because her mother loves that, and then he's saying to his son, whose name is NFL Sunday Ticket.
Oh, nice.
To go get him a beer.
Go get him
because he loves NFL
beer.
Sunday Ticket.
$2 a month plus there's some other tiers. I'm going through a very big dilemma in my head right now. The game being at 4:30 messes up my plan of having an annual trip to the Candlewick Diner after the game. After the final home game of the season, because it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be too late, and we also have to record, but we could have like a breakfast, but it would have to be like really early because I get to the stadium early because I have to reserve the spot for the tailgate. So I don't know what to do.
Let's talk about that during the one of the ads that we have.
Let's talk about that during the ads.
Take it away, Steve.
Mail time.
Mail time. The mail's here. Come on. Bye, guys. Here's the mail, it never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Thanks, Steve from Blue's Clues. Justin, let's get into the mail.
Let's get into the mail, and Jared Gutman is asking at NYG TSI, are you guys concerned that Kayvon Thibodeau hasn't quite taken that year two jump that the numbers say he has? He doesn't look like he's ever going to be a dominant edge rusher. I wouldn't go as far to say ever, but Bobby, certainly, now that the sacks have fallen off, I think that there's another discussion to be had about Kayvon Thibodeau's season.
Yeah, I know. Again, I'm not going as far as this person saying like, he's never going to be like. I'm happy with Kayvon's second year. I am. Now, I think there's some worries about it though too, Justin. And just to go through the numbers, right, out of 78 edge rushers, he's 12th in sacks. That's awesome for a second-year player. Here's the not so good. He's 47th in sacks, hits, and pressures combined. He's 60th in pass rush production, which is, amount of, of sacks, his pressures per pass rush snap. And then he's 69th out of 78 in pass rush win rate, which again, to me, is like a true test of how good you're actually playing. And then for guys in his class, he's first in sacks, but he's 7th in the sacks, his pressures. He's 11th in pass rush production and 14th in pass rush win rate. So it's not just being a young type of thing. And, all of the 2022 first rounders, they've caught up. They all have sacks. They all have 8+, right? Aiden Hutchinson, Karlaftis, Trayvon Walker, Jermaine Johnson, they all have good sack numbers now. So here's the issue: is he's just not consistently winning, which is bad. The good thing is he isn't a reciprocant of fake sacks, right? Like Kyler Fackrell having a 10.5 sack season, those are fake sack numbers. His sacks are great on film, and there's a lot of things he does very well on film, right? There is very good pass rush moves that show up on film. The issue is it's not happening consistently at all.
Yeah, man.
And top 25 rushers, it happens consistently.
Yeah, man. And, you mentioned that, Aiden Hutchinson has 93 pressures according to PFF this year. He has 20 QB hits outside of the 9 sacks that he has. So Pro Football Reference probably would have him at 29 QB hits. Pro Football Reference has Kayvon Thibodeau at, I believe, 13 QB hits right now. And that's with, that includes, they include sacks as QB hits as well. PFF has
QB hits outside the sacks from PFF.
3 QB hits outside the sacks. That's I know Wink Martindale's system, and I know the quarterbacks are trying to get rid of or getting rid of the ball early, but I don't think that's a reason for the gap to be so large. Nick Bonito, Jermaine Johnson, Trayvon Walker, Boye Mafe, George Karlaftis, and Aiden Hutchinson all have more pressures than Kayvon Thibodeau. And Kayvon Thibodeau, his pressure number is decently okay. I mean, you're the names that are in front of him in QB hits. George Cole, the same names, including Kingsley Enagbare from the Packers, who I really did not like. You liked him a little bit more than I did. So, it's the same conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. The consistency it's concerning me, and I'm a little bit more down on his year because without that other productivity, without you hitting the quarterback, without you pressuring the quarterback at really an above average rate, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to easily replicate what he did this year next year with the sacks. That'll be a really tough thing to predict, and that'll be a really tough thing to do if you're not hitting the quarterback. Oh,
absolutely. He is candidate. If you just go around the NFL and you're like, hey, which pass rusher is a candidate of not having good stats this year next year that it did this year? It is Kayvon Thibodeau, because again, he's not just middle of the pack in those numbers. He's bottom.
Yeah.
So, but I am happy with his season, right? I'm happy with his season. Again, there's his wins are good wins, right? They're not just, he's getting into the quarterback here or there.
His wins are good. Untouched pressures, untouched sacks, right? It's not that he's winning. They're good.
Yeah,
good
or
stuff.
Third effort type stuff, or quarterback running into him. That's not that type of shit, right? So you should feel very good about the sack number. And sacks are ultimately they're much more important than hits and pressures, but hits and pressures are much more indicative of future success.
Yes.
So, but he needs to take a step forward to be what we wanted in the 5th pick, right? He's already a good player. He's a piece to build around, but he does need to take a step forward to really be a player we can bank on to change the games for the Giants consistently.
Yeah, I agree. And I felt like we saw. Man, this is going too far. I almost wanted to say I felt like we saw more of those signs in 2022 than 2023. But I mean, you still have the Jets game that I feel like he really took over. There were some other games where even if it doesn't show up in the box score, I said, "Oh, Kayvon." I thought Kayvon really had a good game, and I thought he did play the run decently well at certain times this year, which he doesn't have a lot of run stops either, according to PFF. But I did think that he set a good edge at times. That's another thing that's inconsistent in my brain too. So again, consistency. That's the thing that I want to see, especially from that stats perspective that I like to look at.
If Wink Martindale's gone, he would probably be the biggest benefactor of that. especially if they went into 4-man fronts. Like I think he would be the biggest benefactor of a scheme change if the Giants went into a 43 defense. And again, there's really no other Wink Martindale types out there besides Brian Flores.
No, I think
and
him
we're
and
not
Banks,
hiring Brian Flores, obviously.
Right. And him and Banks, I feel like would benefit. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so just we need more consistency out of him. Like again, I'm happy with this year too, but we have how many months until the next week 1 game? That is going to be the talking point the entire offseason with Kayvons. It's good. Need to have more consistency and need more out of you.
Yeah, and with this being a Wink Martindale scheme, and let's just say in the perfect world in which Wink Martindale stays, that does make me concerned about what will Kayvon Thibodeau's third season look like, because when you don't have the pressures and the hits to kind of back you up, that will make me really worried about what that sack number will look like. I mean, if Kayvon Thibodeau can replicate double-digit sacks for the rest of his career, even when only hitting the quarterback 5 other times, but if you're getting 10+ sacks every single year for the next 5 years, sign me up for the rest of your rookie contract. If you're putting the quarterback down on the ground 10 times every year, and it results in negative plays, forcing fumbles, getting turnovers, sign me up, man. But I unfortunately don't have that Pandora's box of if you get 10, Kayvon Thibodeau can easily be a player that gets 10 sacks and 15 QB hits every single year. That's a very, very tough thing to do. There are some players that can do it, but that's a really, really tough thing to do. I know Khalil Mack throughout his career doesn't have like crazy QB hit years, but yeah,
who's
I'm worried
another
about
one who's kind of could be on a similar track. It is Matthew Judon, which does give you a little, hope. Like Matthew Judon's year 2, 9 sacks, 8 hits, 18 pressures, which is less than Kayvon. Now he had less opportunities in there, right? He had he was better in all the other per snap basis. But, the year before he went to the Patriots, he had 6 sacks, 15 hits, and 18 pressures, which is somewhat similar to what Kayvon's done this year.
He did have a 33 hit QB year in
2019 he had an amazing year. But that for Baltimore was much better than the other years. Now with New England, again, he's been able to do a lot more, but that's why I talk about, hey, Kayvon could actually benefit from a scheme change.
Hassan Reddick has also been a player too. Before he went to the Eagles, 12.5 sacks and 11 sacks in 2020 and 2021, 16 QB hits and 18 QB hits. And then it really wasn't until he went to Philly where, he increased those sacks and has hit the quarterback even more. So Hassan Reddick with his year with Arizona in 2020 and then Carolina in 2021, pretty, if Kayvon Thibodeau turns into a Hassan Reddick kind of player, even before he went to the Eagles, again, I'll consider that a success and I'll tip my cap. But, next year's obviously going to be a big year for Kayvon, especially if Wink is here. It'll be a really tough one to predict.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question.
Next question is coming from Alex Sanso at Sanso_Alex. How likely is it that the Giants draft an ad with their first draft pick? What do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about DraftKings or do we want to talk about the tailgate first?
You mentioned DraftKings. Why don't you do DraftKings?
I'll do DraftKings. College football fans, the championship is here. And DraftKings Sportsbook is making sure you can throw down on the epic showdown for a shot at big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting $5 on the championship game. Download the app now and use code WORLD. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on college football only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with code WORLD. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did. Next question
is coming
from JC at Greg Cut_. What sort of deal would you be willing to offer Saquon Barkley this offseason if he ends up walking? Do the Giants move forward with Eric Gray, or are there other options that intrigue you either in the draft or free agency?
Gray hasn't done anything to say you move forward with him. You'd have to have other options. Man, I'm in franchise tag or let him walk again. I really am, Justin. Like, this season and where the Giants are right now, to me like, I'm in more of like letting him walk. And I got a lot on this, so I don't want to take up too much. I don't want to go on a monologue, but I'm going to go quick, and then you can tell me what you think. He's 45th of 47 running backs in success rate this year, right? And again, I think that's an offensive line step, but that is part of the point. Like, he might get 1,000 yards this year, but he's dangerously close to being under 4 yards per carry, which would be his second worst season in efficiency since, the only year that was worse was 2021, where he was a legitimately just bad running back coming off the injury. It's his worst receiving season with 17 yards per game after talking about how, I didn't like the comps to Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. Well, guess what, man? You had a year that made you even look even more like that. He's still a good back, but he just doesn't have the wow plays that he did in the early years, Justin. And I'm going to keep it simple with this. I'm just not betting on his ages 27 to 29 seasons, which are years 7 through 9 for him, especially after missing games in 4 of the last 5 seasons. So if they franchise tag him, I'll be completely fine with it. But I'm at a point now where I want those resources going elsewhere, because you're not getting returns on the investment. You will have a bad run game, so you're not getting the returns on the investment. He's not adding much to the receiving game. I know he had touchdowns this year, but he's not really adding much to the receiving game. You're not getting returns on the investment. So how do you justify that with a team that's not going to be a Super Bowl contender and cannot really afford that luxury?
I mean, you know my answer on it, but I mean, what I honestly think is going to happen, Bobby, I think he's going to take a deal that is awful for him. Awful. Because I think he understands, and I think John Mara and him are on a very similar page with this. And I think that this is kind of true. Like, if I'm in Saquon Barkley's camp, and if I'm even Saquon Barkley, I'm looking at the career of Tiki Barber, who is a borderline Hall of Famer, probably is a Hall of Famer, will eventually be. It seems like that's picking up steam. You look at Victor Cruz, even Justin Tuck that left for Oakland, but he's set up for life. Amani Toomer, greatest wide receiver in Giants franchise history, at least stats-wise. He is still making media appearances left and right and making money just from generating that. So the whole point of why I'm bringing up these former players is they're Giants for life, and they didn't leave. Besides Tuck, but still seen as Giants. These guys are Giants for life. Now, the biggest difference between Saquon Barkley and the rest of the players that I named, besides Tiki, but again, Tiki's a borderline Hall of Famer, did make a Super Bowl. All these guys won a Super Bowl, and Saquon Barkley right now is not on track to win a Super Bowl with the Giants. But I think he realizes the impact of starting your career with the Giants. And if he ends his career with the Giants, no matter what he chooses to do, he will be set for the rest of his life simply because he was a Giant for life.
See, I agree with that. I agree that he thinks that way 100%. But at the end of the day, once you get agents involved, I don't know. Like, what is that number going to be? Realistically, because think about what it was last year and think about how this year has went very bad. Now, like, Saquon hasn't been bad this year. It's not like a 2021 year. He's been good, but the numbers haven't been great. He has good volume, obviously, because he gets a lot of carries. And so, and to me, it's like, and here's, like, if it was coming off of year 4, Justin, right? Like, sure. But even then, he's, like, missed every game. But, like, we're going into years 7. We're going into year 7 for Saquon Barkley, a running back, right? And you look at the top average annual value running backs contracts in the NFL. Kamara, the Saints want to get out of that. Derrick Henry, that one's worked out despite the previous injury that he had.
But they're still looking to trade him, right?
Jonathan Taylor has less yards and yards per carry than his backup already. Nick Chubb He got 1 year. Like, Nick Chubb is known as like the good running back contract. Well, he got 1 year on it, tore his ACL, and then the third year is next year coming off the torn ACL. Aaron Jones has worked out fairly well despite his injuries, but he also took a pay cut. And then Miles Sanders, he's been horrible in Carolina. And here's like, if I want you to imagine right now, all the listeners right now, imagine Saquon Barkley is a Chicago Bear. Right? Imagine Saquon, and he's had copy and paste the exact same career. You're a fan of his, right? He's a good player, right? When we talk on JM Football, we're talking about, hey, Saquon's good, but, the team around him holds him back. Would you be advocating for the New York Giants to go and sign Saquon Barkley, even on a 1 year, $12 million contract? You wouldn't. You're lying to yourself if you say that you would. You would say to go put that investments in other areas, right? You can get, how about we get split the franchise tag with, your fifth offensive lineman and edge depth, right? Because it's going to be $12 million on the books next year. Obviously, you can move around contracts and stuff. So the franchise tag, I won't be mad about the franchise tag.
That'll be the fifth highest cap number on the Giants so far next year. It'll be behind Jones. It'll be behind Waller, Andrew Thomas, and Dexter Lawrence. Those are the four that will be a higher cap number than Saquon Barkley next year. And
the Giants are going to have cap space to do basically, for the most part, what they want within reason once they cut Mark Lewinsky. They have $42 million. But you have Xavier McKinney coming off the books.
Yeah, not as much as we think, because
Jones
really kills it.
But it's not a ton either. Like, it's not like, hey, go on a spending spree type money either. Like, you're going to have to structure these deals a little bit if you franchise tag Saquon Barkley. And I just without getting deep into the free agency class, I just would rather put those investments somewhere else. We're going into year 7, right? And if you give him a 2-3 year deal, Justin, like, okay, are we hoping that year 9 he's still really good and contributing out on a Super Bowl team by then, right? Because year 7 he's not going to be on a Super Bowl team. Year 8 it would be, at best you're a team that's competing to go a little deep in the playoffs. If you just get a slam dunk quarterback pick, then you got a chance. So now if they do get a quarterback, it sucks to take that weapon away from Saquon, and that's why I'm okay with franchise tagging him. But
here's the thing. Here's where I'm at. And again, I'm bringing up that damn line of investing in the running game and not just a running back. I'm bringing that line back. Has Saquon Barkley, and I'm asking you this, and I'm asking all the listeners this, has Saquon Barkley done enough as a running back in the year 2023 to prove that we should be investing in Saquon Barkley and not putting more resources into the running game? So that could be, an Eric Gray / tandem of one or two other running backs that hopefully can average 4.5 over 4 yards per carry, right? Saquon Barkley has averaged 4 yards per attempt this year, and I look at let's just use 2019 as a comparison, 4.6 yards per attempt. That's really good. Can the Giants generate a run game where they're averaging at least 4.5 yards per carry and per attempt with all of their running backs combined? Has Saquon Barkley in the year 2023 proven that he deserves the Giants to invest in him as one of the sole heartbeats of their running game? My answer is no. He has not.
I mean, you're not getting return on the investment,
no,
right?
You're not.
Like, and again, I'm not going to be like, well, they're not winning, right? Well, they're not winning, but I still would re-sign Andrew Thomas, obviously. But here's the difference between Saquon Barkley and Andrew Thomas, is that they can both be great at their position. But here's the thing. With Andrew Thomas out there, no matter how great the team is or how bad the team is, you're getting great left tackle play. You're getting great left tackle performance. You're getting your blind side protected. With the offensive line in the state that it is, as good as Saquon Barkley can be, you're not getting good running back efficiency and numbers. And that's why to me, you're not getting returns on the investment. So I'm okay with the franchise tag because, again, you don't want to just throw away pieces. But if he's stopping you from like getting some free agents or a certain trade or whatever, then I'm letting it walk. Like if you told me I could get my 5th starter on the offensive line and a good edge depth piece for $12 million average annual value, I'm taking that over Saquon Barkley.
2018 and 2019, yards after contact per attempt, 2.8 yards. Really damn good, right? 2021, where we all acknowledge that was a bad year. Yards after contact per attempt, 1.7 yards. Even last year, 2022, yards after contact per attempt, 1.9. 2023, it's the same as 2021, 1.7 yards after contact. He's not getting the same gritty yards like he kind of not even gritty yards like he used to, because he always bounced shit off the outside. But it also comes down to broken tackles. 2018 and 2019 broke 46 tackles combined. The last 2 years, he's broken 23 tackles combined. That's half. It's half of what he did the first 2 years of his career. 24.6 attempts per broken tackle last year, and he bumped that down to 20.8 attempts per broken tackle this year. I mean, it's just what I want to know is, what is Saquon Barkley overtly providing? He's a good running back. I know he's a good running back. I'm not calling him a bad running back.
Yeah, we all know that.
But what is Saquon Barkley extra providing this Giants offense that, if you're smart and responsible in what you do with the offensive line, and you're smart and you're responsible in what you do with the Giants running backs and the committee that could follow, what is he adding that those people can't do?
Yeah, and well, think about how bad the offense is with already. Think about how bad it'd be without Saquon Barkley. Brother, I'm living it. Like, I'm living with the 30th ranked offense in the NFL. Yeah. I'm living with a bad rushing game, right? There's other, like, hey, like Darius Slayton, like I'm getting I'm getting the production I want out of him. Andrew Thomas, I'm getting the production I want out of him. Even Darren Waller, to me, I'm getting more production out of him when he's on the field than I'm getting from Saquon Barkley. So it's a tough spot for running backs, and and this is where it's the frustrating part, is because I agree with you, where Saquon he wants to be a Giant for life. But if it was all about football, you wouldn't want to be on the Giants, right? And that's where this relationship gets very frustrating from both sides, where it's like they love each other, but they would both be better off without each other for the next 3 years.
If Saquon Barkley wanted to win right now, the Baltimore Ravens is such the perfect landing spot for him, because they've been searching for consistent running back play the last couple of years, but they're also a team that smartly won't invest in it, either with a high cap hit or, just drafting a running back high. It's such the perfect landing spot for him. The Bills also would have been a perfect landing spot before James Cook. Look at how James Cook is killing it up in Buffalo. Yeah, man, if he cares about winning, but he also cares about winning in New York, but also he cares about his legacy. And again, he knows that the legacy, even if he doesn't win in New York, will be more secure, and he will financially, and his family will be better off if he stays a New York Giant for life. And that's true. You see it with the guys that do stay Giants for life, how they're worshipped here.
Oh, yeah, it's 100% true.
Even Jesse Armstead, who was very good, didn't win a Super Bowl. Worshipped here, and rightfully so. He was a Giant.
Yeah, and listen, I can't be mad at him for that, but it's just right now, this is just like a relationship where it's like, why does either side want this right now? And when you answer that question, you're not talking about what happens on the football field.
No.
When you answer that question from why does both sides want this, the answer does not include talking about what happens on the football field. And that to me is not a reason to do something. All right, next question.
Next question is coming from Wes Locke, Wesley Westergal. Speaking of Darius Slayton, how good has Darius Slayton been this season? Will the fan base ever truly appreciate what he has done for the Giants in his 5 seasons? I think a complicated relationship, right?
As we get to our last mailbag pod of the year, I sometimes get tiresome talking about Darius Slayton, right? Like in camp, my question was like, who's going to lead the team in receiving outside of Waller? Well, guess what? He's going to lead it with Waller too. But I truly do feel like he's been crazy disrespected. Now, not right now, right? Like now he's kind of getting a little love. He's getting some respect. But the next time he drops 2 balls in a game, or any other wide receiver shows a flash of being good, Darius Slayton's going to go right back to being the most disrespected player on the team, right? Like, I had people saying, like, oh, I stopped listening to the pod because Bobby says Darius Slayton's better than Isaiah Hodgins. He's disrespecting Hodgins. I was like, are we out of our mind, right? And then you still have people saying today, like, oh, he could be a cap cut. He could be a cap cut. That's crazy to me. Like, he's going to lead the team receiving for the 4th time in 5 years. He's probably going to have a career high this season in receiving yards on a team that's last in passing yards. A 60-plus catch rate on over 15 yards per carry in back-to-back years. You know, he's been missed or not thrown to on some deep attempts. He leads the team in deep catches, although Hyatt has more targets. And he's gotten better as a route runner. Now, again, I know he hasn't dropped the ball this year, really. I'm not going to say, oh, his hands have been fixed. His rookie year, he didn't drop the ball either, and then it got worse. So this year could be an outlier. But even if he drops some passes next year, I'm still going to very much appreciate Darius Slayton.
Yeah, and you have seen a concerted effort. I did say conceited effort on a show last week, and my speech therapist of the world called me out on it, and rightfully so. Called me out on that shit.
That was conceited of you.
It was very conceited of me. He's made a concerted effort, I think, this year to really become more of a hands catcher. You heard that over the offseason, and then I think you've seen it this year on film, and you've seen it out there where, you know, he's been more aggressive going up and catching the football in the certain spots that he needs to. Bobby, you kind of mentioned this, but Darius Slayton is the only wide receiver in the NFL during the last 2 years to average at least 15 yards per reception, have at least 40 receptions, and have a catch percentage of at least 60%. Doesn't mean he's the best wide receiver in the NFL, because there are a lot of guys that get more volume than him, and when you get more volume, your yards per reception is usually lower. But what I think that shows is Darius Slayton does his job, and he does it really well. And that job isn't to be a wide receiver 1, even though he's kind of been asked to carry that mantle the last couple years, basically every year of his career except one. He does his job, and he does it very, very well. Of, you know, whatever they ask him to do, he is there for the offense. Is he spectacular? No. But I can appreciate in all these years that we've been doing this show of having very inconsistent players and being very frustrated with players. Darius Slayton has had a lot of frustrating moments, but I've never sat back on this show and said, man, the Giants really need to move on from Darius Slayton because I can't deal with his frustration and his inconsistency anymore. Never has that ever really crossed my mind. And he's also gotten better in the area that I think he was worst in yards after the catch. Like, he's gone from with Jason Garrett, a war criminal, where he was really bad yards after the catch, to Brian Daboll, a good offensive coach, where Darius Slayton's speed is now a weapon with after the catch.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so we'll talk about Slayton a little bit as in this off season. But as this season ends, I want to let it know I am not unappreciative of Darius Slayton, and it's why I get a little tiresome talking about him, because I do think he gets just overly disrespected. I understand drops are the, like, if you want to compare it to drops, right? Like, I know Evan Ingram's having success in Jacksonville, but like I have more appreciation for Darius Slayton than I will ever have of Evan Ingram. And I'd much rather have Darius Slayton on my team for his contract than I would Evan Ingram on his current contract, right? Like, Evan Ingram's not a good blocker, right? Evan Ingram's valuable. Like, we saw him with Pat Shurmur have a lot more valuable, and he was someone that was hurt by Jason Garrett's scheme a lot too. But to me, like, Slayton, for what he is, I'm much more appreciative of him than I am other guys who have had the drops issues. Yeah, the drops are tough. You have no speed element on the 2022 Giants roster.
No,
without him.
No. The drops are tough, and the drops. I mean, that Washington game is really, really tough. And
there's multiple games.
If the Giants lose that wild card game against the Vikings, we're saying it's because of Darius Slayton and that wide open dropped pass he had over the middle of the field on that crosser. So, and he wouldn't be back with the Giants in 2023 if he did drop that. If the drop resulted in a loss, I should say, he would not have been back. So, and
I agree. I don't want to discount drops, right? Because they matter, but I don't think they matter as much as other people say. And to me, the positives far outweigh the negatives. And again,
correct.
It's not his fault that the team has not been able to figure out wide receiver 1 in 5 years. It's not his fault.
Yeah, for sure. GPO Giants at GPO Giants 1999. Do you think Joe Shane will consider drafting a quarterback, or will he choose to read and add instead? If you are coming to the Giants-Eagles game this Sunday at 4:30. I hope you could stop by our tailgate at L16. Actually, you know what? I don't just hope. I'm requiring it. I am requiring it. And there will be violence. Your car may be on fire when you get back to the parking lot, because I'll know if you don't stop by. L16 on the curb, shop.johnboymedia.com. If you want tickets, there's alcohol and there's food that will be provided. We're the only event that's listed on the John Boy Media website if you go to that site, and the link is also in the description below. I have a predicament. I talked about it earlier. We have a tradition, and it's one of my favorite traditions every single year. We've done this since 2021. I take a group of people to the Candlewick Diner after the last Giants home game every single year, and we pay for their dinner. It's like, all right, it's a thank you to, it's a celebration that the season's over, and then it's also a thank you to people for sticking around with us. The game being at 4:30 is a very, very tough situation that we're in, and I don't know what to do about it.
So what time would you get there? Are you planning on get there if you weren't going to do the dinner at all?
So I get to MetLife Stadium for a 1 p.m. game.
No, for a 4:30 game.
No. But I need to just do this math in my head real quick.
What time do the gates open?
For a 1 p.m. game, I get there at 7 a.m. So that's 6 hours before kickoff.
Once you just add 3 hours, that's 10 a.m.
All right. So that's what I needed to. I needed to do that for me to get there. So I get to MetLife parking lot at 10 a.m. for a 4:30 game. Probably the lots open at like 11:15. So I think we would have to go to Candlewick at like 8:15, 8:30.
Yeah, most people don't want to get there to the game.
No, they don't want to get
early.
the psychopaths show up.
But that
early.
could make it worth it though. It's like, hey, you get 10 people who really want to do that. Now here's the thing: if you want to record late after that Bills Dolphins game, I'm also okay. I mean, that's going to be a no notes podcast. That's going to be. I mean I don't think I ever have no notes podcast. There's. Now I'm not saying it. I will have some talking points.
No, you'll have some talking points. But
it's not going to be hard notes. It's going to be easy notes.
I don't want to record at 10 p.m. though, or 11. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, if you're leaving the game, you're going to be recording late, anyways.
Yeah. No. We'll still be recording by 8:30. So I don't know. We'll see. Leave comments. Send me a message. Send me a tweet. Leave comments on the Twitter post and then leave YouTube comments. I probably would limit it to 10 people. We would do an RSVP link, and 10 people would sign up. 10 people would get tickets, and then it would close after 10 people. So because last year it got way too crazy. We had like 20 people, and we were spread all throughout the diner, and it was crazy. So 10 people, that's what it would be. And if you're down to,
hey, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Do you think Manny would let you just record the podcast from Candlewick Diner?
That's an idea. I probably would need to go somewhere quiet, because odds are in the middle of a diner wouldn't be the best place for me to concentrate.
Set us up in the corner, and maybe the people that are there can. Actually, no, they won't be able to hear me.
No, they won't be able to hear you, and that would be crazy. It's a nice idea, but that'd be a little crazy. Let me know what people would be down to do. Are there 10 people out there that would be willing to show up at the Candlewick Diner at 8:15 a.m. on Sunday morning?
That's probably going to be the play, is to do that. All right, next question.
Sports at Sports on Here. Great name. How did Tre Hawkins go from a potential starter in training camp to sitting at the bottom of the depth chart?
I don't have a great answer for this. He kind of got benched for his tackling issues against the Cardinals, Justin, right? Which is, hey, I get it. I'm on board with that. He's played 2 defensive snaps in the last 6 games, right? And I know it's like, oh, well, Giant fans always overhype their day through draft picks. Absolutely, right? It can be annoying sometimes. We didn't overhype this guy. The New York Giants, they bought the second week of training camp, Justin, when we were getting hyped on Tre Hawkins. They said, okay, you're our starting outside corner. Adoree Jackson, change the position you play. Mid-camp, change the position you play. Hey, best corner, change the position you play.
Yeah.
And they didn't stray away from it until, once the season got rolling, right? Like, there was no strength. Like, and we were getting called, like, haters for saying, like, I don't know if I agree with putting Adoree in the slot. We don't need to rush Hawkins. Like, Hawkins has been fun. I don't think we got to rush him. Like, I understand
they're
him not
playing
starting.
their 3 best players.
But when Banks gets hurt, like, the idea that he's gotten 2 defense snaps in the last 6 games is kind of wild that they haven't at least rotate him out there here and there.
Can I tell you a fun fact about Tre Hawkins that I recently learned from somebody who was connected to Old Dominion? Somebody came up to me at a tailgate and said this. Do you know Tre Hawkins, like his name isn't Trey? Do you know what his first name is?
I think it's like something Travius.
Well, it's Larry Hawkins III. And he's called
Larry.
Trey because the third is Trace. So she goes by Tre Hawkins. But they called him at Old Dominion. They called him Lockdown Larry.
We knew that was his nickname. We're like, why do they call him Lockdown Larry? Like, okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, so thank you to, I forget who told me at the tailgate, but I'm glad we had a Tre Hawkins question, so now I can casually bring that up and not be weird about it. Here's what I ultimately think is going down and is happening. I don't know why they did that in training camp and they thought that realistically those were the 3 best players because it kind of was very, you mean starting 2 outside corners against the 49ers, against the Seahawks, against the Cowboys, and against these gauntlet of offensive teams that we played early in the season? You mean that wasn't going to work as well as you thought? So crazy. And it wasn't just a week 1 thing against CeeDee Lamb like a lot of people were telling us too. You don't practice the entire training camp for your week 1 matchup. That's not how that works. So here's what I think it is. The player that we saw all summer, Bobby, was a confident lockdown Larry Tre Hawkins. Confident player and making plays. Physical player. And it matched what we saw at Old Dominion. It matched what we saw on tape, and that was awesome. I think the speed of the NFL, and I think just whether it's complex, whether the athletes are different, all these things, I think that's why we haven't seen him. Because just let him have the good camp. He got his experience, struggled with it. Nick McLeod's an experienced corner. Let's regroup and rock and roll for next year. That's kind of what I think is going on here.
Which should have always been the plan. It's just it is remarkable that, like, he went from, again, making them change Adoree Jackson's position to, hey, you get 2 snaps in the last 6 weeks, and Deonte Banks is injured. You're not going to play at all, buddy. So it'll be interesting to see how his camp goes and stuff. But, his timeline got accelerated, and now it's kind of, I guess, back where it belonged.
Yeah.
And he got benched for tackling, but that was, like, he was a very physical player at Old Dominion. That's the first play you watch a film of him at Old Dominion. It's like, oh my God, this guy is physical. And he had these weird tackle attempts in Arizona and then got benched afterwards, which I agreed with, but still, it's remarkable. And
I hope that player is still in there because we saw that physical competitor ball player in training camp. We saw it. And, the player that Deonte Banks was in training camp was relatively the player that we saw this year. I think the player that we saw, Darnay Holmes and Cordell Flott, the players that we saw them be in training camp, I think that matched what happened on the field this year. And the only one where it didn't match was Tre Hawkins. So I'm still confident that player is in there. But I do think, like, hey, you're playing in an NFL game. The lights are brighter, the athletes are faster, the guys are more physical. I think that kind of caught up with him. And he wasn't up for it ready right away. But I still think that there's a solid enough ball player where Tre Hawkins can at least be here for all of his rookie contract and maybe even serve as a backup.
Well, he's an NFL. He has the NFL size and athleticism, right? Like,
he's 6'3".
My line on him was he is everything that people said Corey Trice was. Where, like, you heard all this shit about Corey Trice and then you watch him like, this is not good. This guy's not a good corner ever. Where Hawkins, you see it in there. It's like, okay, clean these things up and you got yourself a solid player. All right, next question.
Bobby Spence at Post Crab Core. Has JMS trended up or down since the start of the season?
Down. And I hate that I'm going into this offseason, Justin. And we're going to talk about having like major improvements out of John Michael Schmitz. I hate that we're here. He's given up 5 sacks, 2 hits, 23 pressures. The worst pass blocking efficiency of 32 centers this year. Just got worked by Kobe Turner. I thought his worst game of the year. And that's what bothers me the most, right? Is like he had some losses to Micah Parsons and Javon Hargraves, Justin, earlier in the year. But I saw good film. I saw good stuff. And these last 6 weeks, I've seen like negative stuff, and it happened more frequently against lesser players, like Fedarian Mathis, who's the third defensive tackle versus the Commanders. Like that was his second worst game. Now Kobe Turner's been a really good rookie, right? But at the end of the day, he is a rookie that was drafted lower than JMS, and he's faced some other good defensive tackles. So, and you've seen him start to make mental mistakes, which the first half of the season you didn't see at all. I hate talking about like kind of blaming every offensive line issue on Bobby Johnson, but it's another reason why you got to get rid of him. Like you have investments in these guys, and you're seeing regression in season in a lot of them.
In every single one. Every single one.
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy. It is insane.
Besides the ones that were from Dave Gettleman. Ben Bredesen, I guess, hasn't like...
Ben Bredesen's had a much worse season this year than he did last year.
Oh, yeah? All right. Well, then include Ben Bredesen in it.
So he's made mistakes that he didn't make earlier in the year. Like there was always times where, hey, a Javon Hargrave beat him, or a guy got the best of him, just out-muscled him. But there's things that you're seeing him do that didn't happen earlier in the year. Like even if there was concerns earlier in the year about like maybe play strength against NFL defensive tackles and the foot speed, it's like, well, these type of things weren't happening where he's making mental mistakes with stunts, blitz pickup, and not setting correctly. There's just a lot of stuff that's happening. So and listen, this is not an Evan Neal situation to me, where Evan Neal just looked like a bad player who looked like he didn't belong in the NFL. I don't think that shows up with JMS, but there does need to be a lot of improvement from JMS to get to a point where we're happy with that pick too.
33-year-old Justin Pugh is the second best technical offensive lineman on the team. Like obviously Justin Pugh gets beat because he's old and maybe a little bit slower and not strong, but 33-year-old Justin Pugh, the second best technical offensive lineman on the team behind Andrew Thomas?
Yeah, it's like not even close either.
Great.
So, and again, I do have faith in JMS, right? This isn't like last year at this time, did I have faith in Evan Neal? Absolutely not. With JMS, I've got some faith. There's less anxiety, but there needs to be serious improvements.
Yeah. You see the value of good O-line coaching too around the NFL, and the guys that stay there for a long time. Remember who's the former Cowboys offensive line coach that's now with Cleveland?
Bill Callahan.
Yeah, Bill Callahan. Remember when we instead of hey, let's maybe go after Bill Callahan for O-line coach, but no, we got to get Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator, and they hate each other. Remember that?
I do, and then we got Mark Colombo, possibly the worst out of all these O-line coaches. Actually, no, I'd say Bobby Johnson's results have been, oh boy, they were so bad. Anyways, next question.
Chris Kyleth at C. Kyleth. Has Isaiah Simmons improved on his flaws that you highlighted in your film breakdown of him, and would you guys want him back next season?
Not necessarily, but he's done what we said in the film in that podcast when the Giants traded for him. It's like, this is what you got to do. Use him as a specialty, put him in man coverage, let him blitz. And he's done that role pretty well, Justin. Now he's gotten a little more regular linebacker snaps, but he's still a bad tackler, right? And he's not asked to play much real linebacker play. Isaiah Simmons, to me, is the player that's most tied at the hip to Wink Martindale. If Wink Martindale stays, I want Isaiah Simmons. He adds value to the team. If Wink Martindale leaves, then I don't think Isaiah Simmons adds much value. And if he does, it's as your fourth linebacker, not as your third linebacker.
It's crazy. I definitely thought that he would get 100 pass rush snaps this year, and he has 82, so he hasn't even cleared that. But 7 pressures, 1 sack, no QB hits, 6 hurries. Yeah, 17% missed tackle rate, which is a career high for him. And that does
shows
not
up.
That's the thing that
Big
bothers
time.
me the most, man, because you have negative plays that are there. And for a guy that doesn't get a ton of opportunities, Isaiah Simmons, 342 career snaps. His career low is 376 in a complete season, and that was his rookie year in 2020. So, if he doesn't get 34 snaps this weekend, then this is going to be a career low of snaps for Isaiah Simmons, and to have, the career high in missed tackle rate, that sucks. So you don't get a lot of opportunities to create negative plays when you're not on the field a ton. And he's had multiple opportunities this year of missed tackles or even some tackles that he's had that have led to some big explosive plays, and that's been an issue all year. If Wink Martindale's
I'm happy
back,
with the trade though.
If Wink Martindale's back, I want Isaiah Simmons back, 100%. But that's still, he's a backup linebacker for a reason, and he's more of he becomes more valuable, and he is more valuable with Wink Martindale versus without Wink Martindale. I don't even know if I would want him as a backup linebacker on the team.
No, he'd have to be like a 4. I mean, he's a gadget defense. He's not even to me like a true backup. Like obviously he would come in if Mike McFadden went down, but to me he's a gadget defensive player. Which again adds value, right? Like you get me a guy who's not just like a 7. If I'm doing the trade all over again. Now,
Yeah.
maybe if I thought Wink Martindale would get fired, maybe I'd rethink that. But I'm beginning of the year, I'm redoing that trade all over again.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, here's the expectation that he was ever going to become a down-the-down linebacker was always just based off of like pre-draft hype. It was not of anything that happened in Arizona.
Right. And I think he's been very, very valuable as that weapon. And as, when they're showing those cover zero looks, he's somebody that you have to account for. That's not somebody that you can just, that's a linebacker that isn't fast and can't do anything.
He closes, like he's fast as fuck, and you can't teach speed. So
and he is good. He is like legit good in man coverage too. Like he is pretty damn good.
That did show up in Arizona, right? Like he is good in those spots, and I think he's closed out some play, even though he doesn't tackle well on some of those third down and longs where they throw the ball underneath and the guy's looking to get yak.
Yeah,
he closes the gap a lot faster than other linebackers will, and I think it's stopped teams from getting some third down and long conversions on the Giants. So he adds value absolutely, but he's a gadget player. Next question.
Last question. Jose Martinez at DJ Dominitas. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized Dexter Lawrences or one Dexter Lawrence-sized duck?
I feel like we did this a couple years ago with Mike Glennon, if I'm not mistaken,
Sure,
Justin.
with his neck.
The answer is easily one Dexter Lawrence-sized duck. It's all about the thumbs. And ducks aren't like tiny, they're not ants. Like, they're big sized birds. You get some of those with the Dexter Lawrence strength and thumbs and hands, like they're going to demolish you. They're going to rip you to shit. A Dexter Lawrence sized duck, I'm picking myself in that fight. I'm gonna grab him by his big ass neck and literally just swing him around, and I'm gonna win that battle 10 times out of 10.
Well, lower man wins. I'm going low.
Well, I'm bigger than the Dexter Lawrence sized duck, right?
Sure.
So I'm not necessarily lower man, but here's what I am doing. First thing I'm doing, I'm like a pit bull. I'm going straight for the neck. That is my goal. I'm getting your neck.
100 of anything is scarier than one of something.
Well, if it was ants, like or hundreds, 100 Dexter, what's something, 100 Dexter lizard-sized Dexter Lawrences. I'm going against that. I'm just going to stomp them all.
No, well, what if one gets in your leg and then you're done?
I will just use my hand, rip him off, and throw him 100 yards.
I'm envisioning a lizard crawling up my leg and then freaking out.
It's crazy you guys just don't have lizards up there, huh?
No, whenever I go to Cancun, which it's been like...
Oh, they have big lizards.
Which it's been a very long time since that's happened, but whenever I did go to Cancun, there would just be lizards everywhere. Even like the tiny ones would freak me out more than the big ones, because the tiny ones, you never know where they go. They can go in your shit, and then you get back to the room, and there's just a lizard in there.
My friend, his younger brother, they went to Costa Rica, and they are like they're adventurous, right? Like I actually lived with them for a little while, and his dad had a bunch of snakes, and the snakes were all in my room, and I would always go and put rocks on top of the cages, and he would take them off to feed them and wouldn't put them back on. They also had like tarantulas and stuff. He tried to smuggle in some lizards from Costa Rica, the youngest kid, and the border customs just like goes to open up a mason jar of lizards, and he's like, "Don't do that," because he had it like wrapped up, and they had a bunch of lizards running through the airport in Costa Rica. So don't try and smuggle animals from different animals, guys. You could get caught
from different countries. That's Bobby.
Can I tell one other story about them? Because I lived with my friend too at the time. We had a couple other people living with us, and we had a tarantula at our house. And when we'd have parties, we'd let him out and hold him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Went missing, right? Missing for like almost a week.
You said tarantulas like spiders?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Went missing for almost a week, and we're like, oh, he's just gone. Like the tarantula's gone. And we had a couple that was living with us, and we're playing like video games or something, and you hear this girl scream at the top of her lungs. It was in her shower towel as she's like getting into the shower, goes to pick up her towel, and then the tarantula is right there. It's one of the funniest things. I could like, out of all the places, it was a big house too. We had 5 people living in there, and it ended up being the one female that lived in the house's towel.
I have a shower towel incident. Do you know what the story I'm about to tell?
No, when your house burned down?
No, not that. When I got stung by a bee in college, getting out of the shower, I was naked. I put the towel, thankfully, on my stomach first. There are a lot of other areas that I could have put the towel on that would have been worse.
I almost died.
Like my shoulder. You would have died. It stung me. So I get the towel. It's like the fall, so the weather's still warm in Philadelphia. So I get the towel. I put it on my stomach. I feel a poke, and then I see the fucker fall. And I, just watched it for 5 minutes. Because I was so amazed that just happened to me. That I got stung by a bee naked, getting out of the shower. So I watched it crawl for its life, and then I stepped on it. And then moved on with my day.
You just let it know. Let all bee friends know. Don't try me. Are you rooting for the Giants to give up 22 sacks so they could break the Eagles record?
To give up 22 sacks?
Yeah, in this game.
That would be a lot. No, to be honest, no.
Giants are second most all time.
To be honest, no. I'm not rooting to go to MetLife Stadium on Sunday. Hey, stay tuned for that weather forecast on Friday's show. It may or may not snow and rain. So freaking hot.
Snow to end the season would be perfect.
Well, I think it's gonna be too warm, so it's gonna turn into snow. It's gonna turn into rain. And it'll be, I think half the Giants' home games this year will be just in the rain, and that's great.
How about that? We'll see you guys Friday for a preview pod. We're not really going to be actually previewing the game. We're going to do, is this guy back or not? We're going to do the Tony Award, which I'm actually really excited for.
There's a lot we have to do.
And, the finale of Spread Picks and the fantasy draft. So we'll see you then. We appreciate you guys. Until then, let's go Big Blue.